The Zephyrian High Command had been quite pleased with themselves. For 3 standard cycles, their forces had maintained a stranglehold on the mining colony of Kepler 442b, extracting precious trilithium, while the pathetic human colonists cowered in their underground warrens. The occupation had been textbook, swift, efficient, and profitable. Admiral Thexkar adjusted his ceremonial plumage as he reviewed the morning reports from his flagship's bridge. The humans had made no serious resistance attempts in months. Occasionally, small groups would emerge from their tunnels, but they seemed more interested in wandering around taking pictures than mounting any meaningful opposition. "Sir," Communications Officer Vextali chirped, her beak clicking nervously, "we're detecting another human group approaching Sector 7. Thexkar barely looked up from his datapad. "How many this time?" 12 individuals, sir. They appear to be tourists?" The Admiral finally raised his head, amber eyes gleaming with amusement. "Tourists? During an active occupation?" On the main screen, grainy surveillance footage showed a small group of humans walking casually across the colony's main thoroughfare. They wore bright, colorful clothing and carried what appeared to be primitive recording devices. One human, a middle-aged female with graying hair, was actually pointing at a Zephyrian patrol skimmer, while her companion held up a small device to capture the image. Thexkar's throat sac inflated with laughter. Magnificent. Even under occupation, these creatures cannot suppress their bizarre compulsion to document everything they see. Ignore them. What the Zephyrian commander didn't know was that those tourists were actually members of the Colonial Defense Corps' most elite reconnaissance unit. The woman with the camera was Colonel Sarah Chen, and she had just finished cataloging the patrol patterns, guard rotations, and defensive positions of the entire Zephyrian garrison. "Jesus, they really don't see us as a threat, do they?" muttered Sergeant Rodriguez, pretending to examine a colorful alien flower while mentally noting the placement of the nearest anti-aircraft battery. "Good," Chen whispered back, her voice barely audible through their micro-communications. "Marcus, tell me you got those shield generator readings." Private Marcus Thompson, busy taking a selfie with a Zephyrian armored transport in the background, grinned. "Every frequency, Colonel. Their whole grid's running on a rotating harmonic sequence. Child's play to disrupt." The team spent exactly 47 minutes conducting their sightseeing tour of the occupied colony. They visited the market district, cataloging weapons caches, admired the architecture near the government buildings, identifying command structures, and even stopped for what appeared to be a picnic lunch, during which they triangulated the exact location of the Zephyrian flagship's communication array. As they prepared to leave, Chen made sure to wave enthusiastically at a bemused Zephyrian guard, who actually waved back. 3 hours later, Admiral Thexkar was enjoying his evening meal when his ship lurched violently to port. "Report," he screeched, purple nutrient paste dripping from his beak.
"Sir, we're under attack."
Vextali's voice had risen several octaves, multiple human craft emerging from the asteroid field. "Our shields are—" The lights flickered and died. Emergency power kicked in a moment later, bathing the bridge in an ominous red glow. "Impossible," Thexkar breathed. "The humans have no military vessels in this system. Our intelligence confirmed—" His words were cut off as the main screen crackled to life, showing the face of Colonel Chen. She was no longer wearing her tourist outfit. Instead, she was dressed in the crisp uniform of the Colonial Defense Corps, and her expression was anything but friendly. "Good evening, Admiral Thexkar," Chen said pleasantly. "I hope we're not interrupting your dinner." Thexkar's crest flattened in shock. You were the tourists. Guilty as charged. Thank you for the warm welcome, by the way. Your guards were so accommodating when we were taking pictures of all your defensive installations." The Admiral's tactical display showed the true scope of the disaster unfolding around him. 12 human warships, apparently assembled from converted mining vessels and freight haulers, had emerged from concealment throughout the system. The Zephyrian fleet was completely surrounded, their shields down and their communication arrays mysteriously malfunctioning.
"How?" Thexkar demanded.
Chen consulted what appeared to be a tourism brochure. "Well, let's see. Your shield generators operate on a predictable harmonic rotation. We got those frequencies during our photography session this afternoon. Your patrol routes haven't varied in weeks. We mapped those during our scenic walkabout. And your flagship's communication array uses an unshielded quantum entanglement matrix. My private over there got some lovely close-up shots of it while posing for pictures. On cue, every Zephyrian vessel in the system found their weapon systems mysteriously offline, and their engines refusing to respond to commands. The thing about humans, Admiral, Chen continued, is that we really do love to explore and document everything we see. We're naturally curious creatures. The difference between tourists and soldiers isn't always as obvious as you might think. Thexkar slumped in his command chair, his elaborate plumage now drooping with defeat. What are your terms? Simple. You have 1 standard hour to evacuate all Zephyrian personnel from Kepler 442b. Any vessels that haven't cleared our space by then will be impounded. Consider this a learning experience about underestimating species that take pictures of everything. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Exactly 58 minutes later, the last Zephyrian transport cleared the system's outer marker. The 3-cycle occupation of Kepler 442b was over, and Admiral Thexkar hadn't even finished his dinner. Back on the surface, the real colonists emerged from their shelters to find Colonel Chen's team already packing up their equipment. The tourists had become liberators in the span of a single afternoon. "Ma'am," Sergeant Rodriguez asked as they prepared to depart, "what's our next assignment?" Chen smiled, pulling out what looked suspiciously like another tourism brochure. This one advertised the scenic moons of Proxima Centauri, currently under hegemony occupation. Ever been whale watching, Sergeant? The hegemony would learn, just as the Zephyrians had, that human tourists could be far more dangerous than human soldiers. After all, tourists asked questions, took pictures, and paid attention to details. And sometimes that was exactly what you needed to end an occupation before dinner got cold.